Thank you. So let me ask you a question, all your dreamers and builders. Have you ever thought about the connection between your calling and your brand? Right? Have you ever struggled with even what those two concepts are and how they even fit together in getting you towards your dream? Because I think they matter. That's how I see the world. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to look at 6 areas that I work in my own life and with my clients. I probably do it way better with my clients than me, but that's why I'm here talking to you. So if you have a social media account, you have a brand. Okay, whether you think you do or not, it's out there. Oh, thank you. And if you ever want to launch and grow your dream projects, you've got to put some intentional energy into your branding. Okay? Now, the word brand or branding just gets a bad rap. Okay? It can feel fake and contrived and all corporatization of yourself. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. And I hope that by the end of this talk, you'll really get that and start to embrace your own brand. I do branding for, like the intro said, companies, authors, ministries. Last year I did a brand for a county, which was really cool and fun. But my definition of branding for people that want to build their own strong personal brand is the confidence to be 1,000% yourself and the guts to tell people who you really are. Okay, does that help make the connection between the two? Branding, okay, oh, it's the rewind button. The confidence to be 1,000% you and the guts to tell people who you really are. Okay, now that's scary. We'll get into the scariness of it. But branding, the way I see it anyway, is simply the public expression of your calling. Okay? So that's not slimy or weird, right? That's what a privilege to steward that. And that's what I believe is an important issue if you want to get to the next level towards your dream. So it can also be uncomfortable though. And that's because at some point along the journey and at various points along that journey, you're going to need to put yourself under the microscope, yourself and your brand. So let's talk about the why. Why are we even talking about this? If you're interested in launching your dream project or even your dream life, you're probably interested in making changes to your current life, your current job, your current whatever, right? So you have to have a desire to become a truer version of yourself. And I know 120% of this audience believes that and is on the road to doing that. Life throws us opportunities to reinvent ourselves, but you don't have to wait for those opportunities to relaunch yourself, rebrand yourself. We can change, right? There's so much hope for us to do that. And being able to define your brand is directly tied, I believe, to being able to clearly articulate your calling. Oh, that's easy. Thanks, Mike. All I have to do is articulate my calling. Everybody can do that, right? No, that's really tough. But so let's get into that. The process of communicating and articulating your brand involves faith. There's belief involved, right? You believe that you were created for something better, something more. You know, as we've heard this weekend, you're enough, okay? But it doesn't mean you can't steward your calling to get to that next level and to see those dreams come to pass and celebrate them. So that's the second point, actually believing that the way God wired you should affect the choices you make and the risks you take. Okay, do you really believe that? That's where it gets scary, right? I think I'm called to do this. Well, are you hiding from that, or are you even taking little baby steps towards that? Things like this. How about making a living at what you love to do? with the people that you want to work with and be with. Well, that's just too good to be true, right? And in the place you want to live. Okay, now you're just blowing my mind. Okay, that's too much. So what about not having to twist yourself into a pretzel just to survive emotionally? Okay, we'll talk about me in a minute. All of us share one common calling, and that's to be ourselves, but it's easier said than done, right? We often doubt that our personal weirdness and our deep desires can really be connected to our work or our ministry or whatever that means for you. If you believe, and even a hunch is a form of belief, okay, that you're called to do something, you'll invest in those areas that interest you and you'll try stuff. We've heard some great talks about that already. For example, if you feel called to write or to speak, you'll learn something about it. At some point, before you have a New York Times bestseller or before you're giving a TED Talk, you're going to add the word writer or speaker to your LinkedIn profile, right? That takes faith, right? You do that before you are it. But that takes faith, right? Yeah, it's scary. So that takes us to the third thing. You have to believe what Oscar Wilde said, and that is everything popular is wrong. Now, at first, when I first heard that, I went, wait a second, that's popular and okay. Everything popular is wrong. If you approach your dream and the circles you run in and so-called successful people with that kind of skepticism, it's going to save you a lot of pain, a lot of comparison, and just a lot of unhealthy behavior, okay? Everything popular is wrong. And I dare you to put that to the test. Social media platforms can be toxic to your dream, okay? Comparison is a dream killer. And we dive into comparisons every time we open up our laptops, right? So quit it. Oh, thanks, Mike. That's easy. If your calling requires 10,000 Facebook fans, it's not your calling. Okay? Your calling is in here. Let's talk about branding and your story. What if your calling is always connected to your life story? Well, it is, always. Let's get into really trying to put handles on what your calling is, because we're all struggling with that. Our stories contain successes and messes, right? And that's the scary part. It's often the messes that hold the keys to our calling. So that's why we want to dive into being able to articulate your calling just enough, but let's not do it the way we're often taught to do, okay? We often look to our successes and our strengths. I'm a huge believer in doing that. We need to do that. But we usually bury the parts of our story that we don't want others to see and that we don't even want to face ourselves, okay? But there are clues in your story, even in the messy parts, that will give you the confidence to know your calling more clearly. Personal example. As a teenager, I was overly concerned about what other people thought of me. And I got completely free of that about 10 years from now. Maybe. So, in high school, I shape-shifted my way into all kinds of social circles and completely lost who I was. The awareness of other people's perceptions was a gift, but it got warped by my own insecurity. So, when I started my first business, I succeeded at selling because I could listen to people and I could read them. So I had financial success from that, but I was completely empty inside. My gift was there, but it got squished and warped and completely messed up. After facing the messy part of my story, I was able to see the big picture, embrace that ability, and work on stewarding that in a healthy way. Now, I help people with branding and marketing, which is all about perceptions. See the connection there? So, another example to see how our calling is sometimes disguised in our story. Growing up, life tried to teach me the lesson, you're on your own. You got to make stuff happen on your own. That was what my story tried to teach me. But as I began to question that message, I realized that teaming up with others was what energized me, but only when I allowed myself to really connect. Now my business mantra is, we're not designed to go it alone. We need outside perspective. We need the gifts that other people bring to the table. So, are the hurts in your story a coincidence, or are they signposts to your calling? Are your failures connected to your dreams? They always are. They always are. What if the hurts you suffered from others were aimed directly at your calling? Well, they were, always. You want confidence to begin to understand your calling? Look in those unexpected places. Fifth, your who is part of your calling. Be okay with who you're called to impact. I've come to grips, and I now finally celebrate, that it's probably not a worldwide stage. That keeps me out of the comparison trap. My calling, I've learned lots of weird ways, is on a behind-the-scenes, more personal basis. So, when I post something on Facebook and no one even looks at it, and somebody else posts a picture of their cat surfing and it gets 8,000 comments, it freaks me out less when I remember that, some people are called to just, say hi and Facebook explodes, okay? So what are you going to do with that? That's all part of how we're wired. So let's talk about some quick how points. My book gets into the real practical side of this and how a trombone almost destroyed my life. But that's for another time. Decide to stop hiding, okay, even behind a very safe, respectable mask. False humility is still false. You can be confident and humble at the same time. Okay? If you have a current job that might be perceived as a conflict, you can start small. It's not an excuse. And this isn't just about having your own business. You have a brand at the office. You're known for something. If you're known for something and you don't like what you're known for, you can do something about it. You could be intentional. You could be strategic. Strategy, branding, calling aren't, in different universes. This is probably the most important point. You've thought to yourself, I wonder if I'd be great at that. I think I would be great at that. Pay attention to that. That's the real you talking. That's your calling talking. Pay attention to that. Take some steps, even little teeny baby steps towards that. Matter of fact, baby steps are better than big giant leaps, okay? When it comes to branding, brutal honesty does apply, okay? We talked about this in the book session. People will judge books by covers, okay? So your brand must be forward-looking. Would I have any idea of the real you, your superpowers, if I went to your website? Maybe not. Eliminate the disconnect between meeting you and meeting your brand, because that's how you're going to reach a wider audience. You can be the best in the world at something. Matter of fact, you're called to be the best in the world at something. But if you don't tell us, who will? Thank you.